Hi, welcome to the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and comment your thoughts and opinions on the stories. Let's get started. Am I the antagonist for telling my son his house was dirty and his wife needed a shower? I've been up all night thinking about this, so I hope it makes sense. My son and his wife welcomed a baby boy 2 weeks ago. Both are 23. My son called me and said would I like to spend a week with them. I said as long as it was okay with his wife I'd love to. Well, I got there, he collected me from the airport, we talked, had lunch, then went to his place. When I got there, my daughter-in-law Megan was hurrying around trying to tidy up. She told me she only found out that morning I was coming. I looked at my son and he went red, then said it was time to meet my lasted grandchild. As I was walking in, I noticed the house was not clean and that Megan hadn't looked like she showered in days. It didn't sit right with me, but I've had 12 children, so I know things get messy fast, especially when you're tired. After meeting the baby, my son said he'll leave you girls to talk. I'm just going to pop out for an hour to the gym. So I asked Megan how she was getting on with motherhood. She told me that it was beautiful, but she was exhausted with feeds every 2 hours. It didn't sit right with me the way she said every 2 hours, so I asked her would she like to nap or do whatever while I look after the baby. In my 61 years of living on this earth, I've never seen an adult fall asleep faster. I looked after the baby for 4 hours and made lunch till Megan woke up and took a shower. After a day of watching my son Hoss on paternity do nothing but look at me and Megan when the baby cried. No help with the household work, nor cooking, which he should be doing all himself because she just had a C-section. I usually don't involve myself in my kids' relationships, but he got on my fucking nerves, and no, he wasn't raised like that. So I told Megan she was being a doormat and that she smelled like she had an infection, that she needed to be on bed rest, and that my son should do 100% of the cooking and cleaning rather than act like a single teenager. They had a fight and my son told me I was a Karen and a bitch for calling his home dirty and his wife smelling. Me and Megan didn't fall out. She asked me to watch the baby for me day, which my daughters and I have paid for. But my son, who isn't here, said I ruined his marriage and that it's all my fault his wife isn't talking to him. Now for the top comments. NTA. Thank you for helping Megan. It seems she needs you. Now get his ass. Oh, I will. I raised my children better than to disrespect their partners. Nurse here. If you think you can smell an infection, she needs to get looked at pronto. Like as soon as possible. They give post-operative antibiotics to prevent infection. But if she has an active infection going, she probably needs a higher dose or a different type. And good for you for standing up for your daughter-in-law, not the a-hole. This needs to be at the top. That's the scariest part of this story. NTA, you're exactly the person who needed to put him in his place. He sounds extremely immature and needs to step up and be a father. We need more mother-in-law like you that actually call out their sons' BS instead of praising them. I would be so embarrassed and ashamed if he was my son. NGL. Am I the antagonist for not paying for the food and leaving my date stranded? Edit. When we first went out we agreed to take turns paying. That's why my sister said that. My sister set me up with her friend a few weeks ago. Yesterday I picked her up from her house and took her to a restaurant for dinner. After we finished eating, she asked the waitress to refill her glass of water. The place was packed and the waitress passed by our table multiple times. Instead of a friendly reminder, she told her if she's mentally declining she should be in a retirement home instead of leaving people thirsty. The poor woman looked like she was about to cry. She started apologizing to my date and went to get the water. I was shocked, embarrassed and angry at the same time. I told her why the fuck would she even think about that sentence, let alone say it out loud. I excused myself and went to apologize to the waitress. I paid for the food I ordered, tipped her a big time and left. This morning my sister called me angrily saying how much of an asshole for what I did to her friend. Apparently after I left, the manager threatened to call the cops if she didn't pay. She had to call her father to send her the money for the dinner and the ride back home. I explained to my sister what her friend did, but she wasn't interested in taking my side. She told me since I picked her up from her place and since it was my turn paying for the date, I should have just did so and drove her back home. or gave her money for a taxi. I wasn't interested in arguing with her, so I said I'll send the money to give to her friend and told her God have mercy on both their future boyfriends. She said if they were an asshole like me, she wouldn't even touch them with a 10-foot pole and hung up. Now for the top comments. NTA nope. You're good in my book. And good on you for recognizing your sister is just as bad as the friend. People who are rude to service workers, excluding when they're actually a-holes, which is rare, are outing themselves as shitty people. Imo, I think every person should have to work a service job for at least 6 months. NTA, she fucked around and found out. No one has the right to be that kind of rude to wait staff, no matter how important they believe themselves to be. I've always felt that the way someone treats service industry workers is usually a strong indicator of whether or not they're an R. Those R's don't see service industry workers as people, but instead see them as opportunities to live out their dreams of being entitled royals. NTA. Am I the antagonist? Because I told my girlfriend not everyone is attracted to you. I met my girlfriend Val a year and a half ago. We've been together exclusively for a year and some change. We have fun together. Same sense of humor. Interested in the same things. When we first met she had low self-esteem, so I would compliment her a lot and try to build her up. Now I think that was a mistake. Everything was smooth sailing. But for the last few months she's been telling me about different guys that have told her they are interested in her and would ask her out if she was single or have checked her out. First I was just like okay, cool I guess, because I didn't really know how I was supposed to react. She continued doing it. Sometimes it was somebody she worked with, other times just some random dude she passed in a store. A couple weeks ago I said something about my female friend's girlfriend. Val said oh friend's name is gay? I thought she was checking me out before. I pretty much just rolled my eyes at that. We went swimming a few weeks ago. After we walked by a couple guys Val said, did you see that? They were checking me out. I seen them sitting there, but it didn't look like they checked her out. They just looked in our direction when we walked by. The last straw was last weekend. We went by my friend from work's house for a birthday party. My friend Will was there. Will is a really nice guy. Can talk to anyone and make them feel welcome. He's also gay. Him and Val really got along and were chatting a while. On our way back to my place Val said I think Will might have a crush on me. I said doubt it, he's just friendly. She said no, it seemed like he was interested. I said Will's gay. Val said well then he must be bi because he was checking me out. I sorta snapped and said this has got to stop. Everyone is not attracted to you or checking you out. Some people are just looking in your direction or being nice. She said don't be jelly, I get looks and you don't. Her way of saying jealous. I said I'm not jealous, but this is beyond annoying. You sound conceited. It's the major turnoff. I ended up telling her she should go home that night instead of stay over at my place. I haven't really talked to her since besides a text she sent. She texted me Tuesday and said when you're ready to apologize for acting like a jealous asshole let me know. I don't think I should apologize, but maybe I was being jealous and this is something I should just deal with. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. NTA, she really doesn't sound like she wants to be your girlfriend anymore. For both of your sakes you should just give her what she wants. It's either a tactic to get him to leave her, so he's the bad guys, or she's incredibly insecure and is basically begging for a compliment, or for him to get jealous to make her feel better. Either way, he should run. NTA. Sounds like she wants you to be jealous. She wants you to feel insecure in the relationship, so she can control you. I'd reevaluate the relationship if this is how she's acting around you. Yeah, that is something my last ex did. She absolutely made sure I knew exactly which of my friends, men, women, couples, wanted her to join them in their bedroom. Am I the antagonist for changing the Wi-Fi password to teach my husband a lesson? I work from home now. Position went remote during the end of the world. Now permanently remote yada yada. So safe to say my Wi-Fi is basically my lifeblood. I connect via Ethernet cable and sign into my company's VPN. My husband also has his own computer and does his thing, but does not work from home. Suffice to say, getting my Wi-Fi cut off would be disastrous and wildly inconvenient. A week ago I got a letter from our Wi-Fi company. Our ACC is in my name only. It was a warning that someone had been seeding a torrent off my IP address for insert porn title here. I'm not mad he was downloading porn. I'm mad he did it on our Wi-Fi without at least a VPN. The letter basically stated if it continued they would cancel our service. I didn't make a fuss. I just went in and changed our Wi-Fi password. When my husband got home I handed him the letter and calmly told him that I changed the Wi-Fi password and did give it to him when he learned how to use a VPN and or to keep his torrents from seeding back. Well, now I'm an R. He doesn't want to pay for a VPN service. He can't play his games or anything, but I'm not willing to risk lowering my job performance by losing my Wi-Fi. So until I see has got a VPN no Wi-Fi password. My best friend thinks the situation is quite amusing, but my husband is obviously pissed. So am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. NTA. He's threatening your ability to earn a living. Absolutely not the a-hole. Your reasoning is sound. Your need clearly trumps his want. But I'd be a little worried about his use of torrents. This may sound paranoid, but viruses can get into routers too. If you're using that for work stuff, he is exposing your company. Honestly, this is going to be a huge fight. But I think he should get his own internet if he's going to be doing that. NTA. But I will say the easiest solution is to get a second internet connection to the house and secure your work line to you directly. Your husband shouldn't be doing anything that can compromise your employment, especially when there are easy solutions. VPN. Our company won't cover Wi-Fi costs, so I'd have to pay out of pocket, and with things being tight as it is, that's not something we'd really be able to afford for a while, unfortunately. Am I the antagonist for going home after I got told to sleep on the floor? I'll preface this by saying that my husband, 33, has a friend, Carl, 33, who he considers to be one of his closest friends. My husband sometimes calls Carl his nicotine because of how much he misses him and wants to spend time with him. They do everything together. They're even co-workers working the same job. Unfortunately, Carlos's wife passed away from cancer 3 months ago, which caused him to distance himself. My husband felt devastated for him. He recently started spending more time with him and brought him meals and new clothes. We planned a 3-day vacation to another state. I made a hotel reservation for 2. Unbeknownst to me, my husband had invited Carl to come with us. This made me upset because it spoiled the entire vacation. Not trying to be dramatic, I only found out when he went to pick him up. I sucked it up after my husband explained that Carl is a recent widower who's been wallowing in grief for so long and needed this vacation. The problem is money is tight, and since Carl hasn't worked ever since his wife passed, he couldn't pay for his own room and we didn't have a budget for it. My husband said we should just share one room and I again sucked it, since he said we'd be out all day on the beach anyway. First night, I was in bed when my husband and Carl got back. I got woken up by my husband telling me to get out of bed and sleep on THD mattress he put for me on the floor, and he and Cole would take the bed. I asked if he was serious, and he asked what else is he supposed to do. He said Cole was a guest, we can't let him sleep on the floor, and at the same time I can't share a bed with Carl while he, my husband, sleep on the floor. I told him I didn't sign up for this, but he told me to suck it, and tried to pull Carl as a widower card. I told Carl to get out, then got up, and got dressed to go home. My husband started yelling me, calling me irrational, but I wasn't having it. I left the hotel and traveled back home. Carl didn't say anything when he saw me leave, except that I was making this non-issue an issue. They got back, and my husband refused to even talk about, but still said I ruined this for Carl and us, and acted abhorrently and disgustingly. I admit Carl is struggling, and I might ruin this for him, but I didn't even know he was coming. Now for the top comments. NTA. Your husband has a better relationship with Carl than he does with you. He actually talks with Carl and wants physical intimacy with Carl, whereas husband ignores you and doesn't communicate with you. Exactly. First I was getting r/suddenly gay vibes. But no. This is not sudden, like you say they are in a relationship. NTA. And also, I think your husband is fucking Carl. NTA, are you sure your husband isn't having an affair with Carl? Because this sounds like he might be. After all, he wanted his wife to leave his bed so his friend could share with him. Even though logic dictates Carl should be the one on the floor as the uninvited guest. There are two of you. Your husband does not get to invite people without consulting you first. Also, it was not a non-issue. Clearly it was an issue, and anyone who says otherwise needs to get their brain checked, because there has to be something wrong for them to think that. Right? Why was Carl so okay with waking her up and forcing her to move so that he could share the bed with her husband? That's weird. Most guy friends prefer not to share a bed. Am I the antagonist for blowing up on my husband for peeing on my plants? I, 32F, started getting into gardening 9 months ago. I'd planted some of my personal favorite plants in the backyard and they'd been taking time and effort to grow. I love taking care of them, and it's become part of my routine. My husband doesn't like it, and has made some comments about me wasting time on those plants instead of working. I already have an office job, or taking care of the house. I do 90% of chores. I didn't pay much attention to him, because I too nag him about spending too much time playing video games. At least gardening has benefits. Yesterday I was at work, and when I came home to check on my plants I started noticing a really strong smell of pee. My plants looked like they had a dog pee on them or something, but it was strange, because we don't have dog, nor does the neighbor have dogs. I went inside the house and asked my husband scout the smell of pee. He nonchalantly said that the toilet was clogged, but didn't have time to get it fixed, then he needed to pee, so he rushed to the backyard and did it. I was shocked. I blew up saying he peed on my plants, but he said he wasn't paying attention to where he was peeing, because he really needed to go. I unloaded on him and said I put money, time, effort to take care of my plants and now they smelled like pee and are probably damaged. He lashed back saying it was not a huge deal for me to blow up like that, and accused me of wanting him sick from holding it in, rather than getting my precious plants wet. I felt disgusted. I couldn't even come near them. He left in the evening to see his dad and get him involved in THD argument. His dad told me to let it go, and that I really overreacted because the plants were okay, but I really felt the disrespect with what he did. Now for the top comments. NTA, but he doesn't just dislike your hobby, he hates it. You work and do 90% of the chores. Why? Are his arms broken? And he thinks you should do more for him. He thinks you don't deserve time for yourself. The toilet wasn't clogged, and you know that. He didn't piss on you, but he actively chose to piss on something you love. It's a very clear fuck you, and a sign of how little he respects you. Dragging his father into it to make you feel outnumbered and in the wrong is just icing on the cake. So you have a full-time job and you do 90% of the chores? Why? What does he contribute? So you're basically his maid/mother? NTA/BTW. He's an ass. NTA. Your husband shows many signs of an emotionally abusive partner. There's nothing wrong with you having hobbies and things you care about. There's nothing wrong with you being very upset that he disrespected and possibly ruined something you spent time and effort building. There is something very wrong with him putting you down for having hobbies, pissing on your garden, lashing out at you for having valid feelings, and running to his dad and turning him against you. You need to think long and hard about this relationship and what you're really getting out of it. Because, as much as I hate to say it, your husband most likely will not change. NTA. There wasn't a single other place he could piss in the backyard that wasn't on the plants he's been criticizing you for cultivating. Y'all don't sound happy, and I would question why, if neither of you are being kind to one another and respecting each other. Why are you still married? I ask this because people sometimes get so caught up in the minutiae that they forget that leaving is always an option. At the very least, go to counseling. Wildly inappropriate that he got his dad involved to side with him as well.